Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government advises NICOM to implement insurance strengthening policies. EFCC recovers military equipment from contractor. Plus, William Ruto wins Kenyan presidential poll. Details of these stories and more in a moment. Insurance Commission NICOM to develop and implement policies which will strengthen the insurance sector. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed gave the charge when she received the board chairman, Abubakar Sani, who led members of the governing board on a courtesy visit to her office. Ahmed also encouraged the NICOM board and management to reposition the industry to enhance its contribution to government to effect a major restructuring of the insurance industry, including the elimination of non-performing companies in the sector. He specifically intimated the minister of the board's plan to carry out specific exercises aimed at was underway. Away from that, Nigeria's oil production has slumped by 28 million barrels between January and July 2022, threatening the federal government's 9.37 trillion naira oil and gas revenue target by the end of the year. In the 2023 to 2035 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper recently presented by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed, the federal government blamed oil production shut-ins. Crude oil production figure of 1.399 million barrels per day in January 2022. Nigeria's production crashed to as low as 1.084 million barrels per day in July, which means the country lost about 315,000 barrels of crude oil daily, amounting to 28.4 million barrels of oil. Matters now, Chairman Senate Committee on Army, Senator Alin Dume, has called on the federal government to declare a state of emergency on security. The senator also said the Army needed to be better equipped to tackle security challenges facing the country. According to reports, from banditry in the northwest to terrorism in the northeast, kidnapping for ransom in the southeast to oil bunkering in the south-south, cultism in the southwest to rape, security forces are grappling with scenes in the fight against criminal elements. More still needs to be done to enable Nigerians sleep with both eyes closed. He reiterated his calls for more funding for the Army, observing that the military lacked the modern equipment required. The armed forces' ability to fight the menace across the country if given the necessary tools. Still on the legislature, Senate Public Accounts Committee has put the current and past management of the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund (NSITF) on their scrutiny. The committee said it discovered that the fund's management had failed to produce relevant documents to justify alleged spending of 17.158 billion naira in 2013, with claims that some of the documents to back the expenses had been eaten up by termites. Recall that the NSITF failed to submit its annual financial statements since 2010. The author Urogide had queried the agency over the disbursed sums without appropriate supporting documents. In his report, the Auditor General said the 17.158 billion naira represented the total sum of money transferred by the agency into various untraceable accounts belonging to individuals and companies between January and December 2013. In another development, Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, at a ceremony at the Commission's Zonal Command in Abuja, Bauer commended the collaborative relationship between the EFCC and the Nigerian military. Represented by Head of Operations Headquarters, Assistant Commander of the EFCC H2, Michael Wetkas, the EFCC boss explained that the items were recovered from a contractor who supplies military equipment. He said the equipment were voluntarily handed over to the Commission in the course of an investigation. Bauer said it was important to hand over the equipment directly to the military to prevent them from getting into wrong hands. Still on security matters and structures across the country, he ordered tight security surveillance on schools, hospitals, health facilities, and other critical infrastructure to forestall any emergency. According to a statement by the Force Public Relations Officer Olumuyiwa Adejobi, the IGP also charged all officers and men to be on the offensive by taking the fight against crime to the doorposts of suspected criminal elements. Court, emphasizing the urgency and importance of the new security measures, Kali charged police officers to exhibit courage and serve with compassion, in line with the policing theme of the Buhari administration. Now, in the run-up to the 2023 general elections, Nigeria Police Force has advised all politicians to eschew violence and cautioned their supporters against threatening voices of dissent and opposition. The police pointed out that any threat to life is a criminal offense, adding that the Electoral Act is also clear on the appropriate punishment prescribed for election-related crimes. The force spokesperson Olumuyiwa Adejobi stated this in an interview with newsmen against the backdrop of online bullying and violence. State Independent Electoral Commission has fixed local government elections in the state for October 15. Announcing the date in Osogbo during a press briefing, the chairman of the commission, Segun Oladiton, said it would be a direct election, unlike the last local government poll, which was indirect. Speaking further, Oladiton added that in the coming poll, chairman would be elected directly, while ward councillors, management and enforcement. Lagos State government has deployed more body cameras to personnel of the Lagos Traffic Management Authority last month. Explaining the reason for the redeployment of the gadgets, the special advisor to the governor said the Sanwo-Olu administration had brought lots of technological innovations to address the transport challenges of management, among other benefits. Still to come in the news, Nigeria's inflation rate hits 17-year all-time high. You stay with us. Many thanks for staying tuned. Moving on now into Africa, where Kenya's Deputy President William Ruto has been declared the winner of the presidential election amid dramatic scenes. According to the official results, Ruto narrowly beat his rival Raila Odinga, taking 50.5% of the votes. Independent electoral and votes in the August 9 vote against 6.94 million for his rival Raila Odinga. Shortly before his announcement, 4 out of 7 commissioners of the electoral umpire said they could not recognize the results, raising rigging fears in the closely watched poll in the East African political and economic powerhouse. Now, this was the first time 55 for 10 years, but fell out with President Uhuru Kenyatta, who backed Odinga to succeed him. After the results were announced, Ruto vowed to work with all leaders in Kenya. The 77-year-old former Prime Minister Odinga, who got 48.8% of the vote, was running for president for the 5th time. So in Africa, dozens of Ivorian soldiers held in Mali and accused of being. The Malian Judicial Authority said a Bamako prosecutor had charged the soldiers with an attempt to undermine state security, but Ivory Coast has denied the accusation and demanded the troops be released, saying they were reinforcements to the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali, MINUSMA. Operation in Mali have now left the African country. The French chiefs of staff announced this today. Macron decided to pull out after France and the Malian junta fell out in the wake of a military takeover in August 2020. After ties ruptured between Paris and the junta that took power in Mali in August 2020, the French began to withdraw its troops in February as jihadist violence surged in the Sahel. According to a tally based on the findings of non-governmental organization ACLED, more than 2,000 civilians have been killed in Mali, Niger Republic, and Burkina Faso since the start of the year. Still on the foreign scene, China's military has carried out more exercises near Taiwan today as a group of U.S. lawmakers of its sovereignty. The 5 U.S. lawmakers, led by Senator Ed Markey, arrived in Taipei yesterday on an unannounced visit, the second high-level group to visit following that of U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi in early August, which set off days of Chinese war games. The Chinese military unit responsible for the area adjacent to Taiwan, the People's Liberation Army's Eastern Theater Command, said it had organized multi-service joint combat readiness patrols and combat drills in the sea and airspace around Taiwan today. It added that the exercises were a stern deterrent to the United States and Taiwan allegedly continuing to play political tricks and undermining peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Away from that, Iran has denied any link with the attacker who stabbed author Salman Rushdie in its first official response to the attack. His supporters were the only ones to blame for Friday's attack. According to Kanani, freedom of speech does not justify Rushdie's insults against religion in his writing, and no one has the right to accuse the Islamic Republic of Iran for his attack. Kanani told a news briefing in Tehran that Rushdie had exposed himself